Shalom Aleichem, Achai V'Reai, fellow alumni. It's a schus and a pleasure to be sharing Torah with you this week, Parashat Beshalach. I want, with your permission, to share with you an old question and at least the beginning of what may be a new approach, a new answer, with the hope that Tein L'Chacham V'Yachkam Od, that you'll be able to take this perhaps garin and expand upon it, comment on it, and lahagdil Torah ulahadira. The question is, how do we explain Bnei Yisrael's reflex, their knee-jerk reaction from this week when they stand at the banks of Yam Suf all the way to their 40th year? Whenever they encounter trouble, challenge, obstacles, their first reaction is, let's go back. Nashuv Mitzrayim, Nitna Rosh v'Nashuva Mitzrayim. And they suffered for so long. Why would they imagine that, as it were, the watermelons were free, or that it was better for them there? And assuming that they weren't free, and assuming that it's true that it was incredibly difficult, avodat parech, then the usual approach is something that teaches us about the slave mentality, about Arech Fromm's escape from freedom, preferring the fetus zone, the comforts of that Yarkatea Sfina that Yonah descended to, or the Teva that Noach preferred to find refuge in, rather than face the challenges of the brave new world. Today I want to share with you, again, a new insight, somewhat startling. It needs development, and yes, it is based on the teachings of the Ari Kadosh. But after all, I am speaking to you here from about 20 meters away from the Beit Knesset Ariya Sfaradi here in the old city of Tzfat. It's an idea I found in a sefer called Sharei Tzadik. Here it is, the first volume, the collected letters of my Rebbe's father, of Gedalia Koenig. And he suggests, based on another pasuk, that there perhaps could be more of a positive reading, a more spiritual motivation in the Jews' desire to return to Egypt. He bases it on a pasuk which we find in Parashat Lech Lecha, that when Lot goes to Sodom, the Torah describes Sodom as being Kegan Hashem Ke'eretz Mitzrayim. And while there are many different interpretations, but that juxtaposition of Gan Hashem, Gan Eden, and Mitzrayim is surprising. One of the main lessons I learned and took away from the Tanakh Shiurim in Yeshiva was that the parallel is between Gan Eden and Eretz Yisrael. This Rav Menachem Liebtag taught us, this Rav Sabato taught us, and in Mitzrayim, if you will, is the anti-Yisrael, as it were, compared to Gan Eden. So without going into the comparison of how many rivers each of them had, Rav Gedalia suggests that there's something to be learned about what we were doing in Mitzrayim from this connection to Gan Eden. Just as in Gan Eden, we were placed there, la'avda u'l'shamra, we had a spiritual mission. And when we were no longer able to carry that out because of the Chet Adam Harishon, we were expelled. So too, says Rav Gedalia, surprisingly, the Gerush from Gan Eden has a parallel in our chipazon, in being hastily escorted, pushed out, kicked out of Mitzrayim. And we were put there in Mitzrayim for a parallel tikkun. Just as in Gan Eden, lavda'u l'shamra, so too, without going into the technicalities of the Arizal's Kabbalah, who talks about raising up the sparks, but for whatever reason, however you cut it, that it was so important already from the Brit Bein Abtarim for us to be in Mitzrayim, then whether it's Kuar Barzel, and whatever you understand that to be, we were doing a spiritual avoda. We were, as a Kuar Barzel, not just a smelting pot that brings Am Yisrael and forges us into a nation, but also serves to refine and to distill our very neshamas. So the longer we stayed there, we were enacting this tikkun, but at the same time, especially since we didn't have Matan Torah yet, says Rav Gedalia, we were also going down, down, down towards the Memtet Sharei Tuma. And right before we hit rock bottom, we hadn't yet achieved our full purpose in being there. We weren't able to fully distill our neshamas. We weren't able to fully raise up the sparks, whatever that may mean. And we left in what may be an aborted mission. It was in fact a half-baked geula, pun intended, because of what the matzahs tell us, that we left without full matzahs, without fully blown or grown fruits of our redemption. So that is the reason, says Rav Gedalia, that subconsciously, maybe there's a slave mentality, maybe there's a preference for watermelons and zucchinis over man, but underneath, we were feeling that we hadn't completed our avoda. We hadn't finished the mission that we had started out with there. And it was so hard for us to leave. We always wanted some way to find our way back to complete that mission. Now, what's the lesson for us? The lesson for us is that every scenario that we find ourselves in our journey through life, also we have the opportunity to be successful, but it's not an all or nothing scenario. A lot of times we make progress, and then as it were, life moves on, and we should never feel that, oh, if I could only go back and do it there and finish what I did. You did what you did, and now you've moved on to the new challenge, the new tikkun. You're heading towards Eretz Yisrael. And perhaps that's one of the lessons here, that while yes, they did not complete their ultimate avoda of Mitzrayim, but just like with Gan Eden, it moved on, and now instead of La'avdo L'Shamar, we have Taryag Mitzvot, and we have Eretz Yisrael. So too here, the Jews now have to face how they can do their tikkun in their new circumstances, in the new scenario. Again, I hope this serves as fruitful seeds for discussion and for your responses. And I wish you all Shabbat Shalom.